Did you know that 40% of primary school girls are already worried about becoming too fat? And the most powerful influence on their body image isn't social media or their friends, it's you, their mum. As a woman who once stood before the mirror pinching my flaws while my toddler watched wide eyed, I've had to confront a difficult truth. My body talk shapes my daughter's self worth for decades. Today, I'll reveal eye opening research that transformed my approach to parenting and body image. You'll discover practical, science backed strategies to protect your daughter's self image without sacrificing your own journey. Tools I wish I'd known years ago. I want to share something that shocked me when I first learned about it. So, girls as young as 3 years old, can begin showing signs of body dissatisfaction. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? Like little ones who've barely begun to understand the world around them, already feeling that their bodies aren't right somehow. I remember my own earliest body image moments so clearly. I was probably about 6, standing in class, and I remember looking at my other friends, and all I could see was how my legs just looked too big compared to the other girls. And I distinctly remember thinking I should stand behind someone else so no one would notice at 6 years old. And I've wondered so many times where that thought came from. Like, I wasn't watching fashion magazines or social media. How did I already know to compare myself and to feel that bigger was worse? My early experiences mirror what recent studies have revealed. So I read somewhere that the research from it was the Professional Association for Childcare and Early Years found that nearly a quarter of childcare professionals have seen body image concerns in children aged 3 to 5. And by the age of 8, many girls have completely internalized negative feelings about their bodies, all before puberty even begins. Studies show more than half of girls aged 6 to 8 express worry about their weight or shape. Children are remarkably observant from their earliest years. They absorb everything around them like little sponges, and our comments about our thighs, our sights in the mirror, our talk about our diets, even the way we tense up when trying on certain clothes. This absorption works like a photograph, developing slowly. At first, it's invisible, then gradually revealing a complete picture of body expectations. These countless tiny moments form their understanding of how bodies work and which bodies are acceptable. This early awareness creates a foundation for how they'll view themselves for potentially decades to come. We often think body image issues start with teen girls discovering Instagram filters or fashion magazines, but the groundwork is laid much earlier. There's a biological component as well. So, studies at the University of California, I think it was, found links between hormone levels and body dissatisfaction, even in prepubescent children. So, beyond cultural messages, complex biological factors can make some children more vulnerable to developing negative body image. And what's particularly concerning is how early dissatisfaction affects how girls engage with the world. I read a recent article that found that girls who express body concerns at young ages often avoid activities they might otherwise enjoy, like refusing swimming because of the swimsuit anxiety or avoiding sports to prevent being seen running. Their experiences become limited by appearance concerns before they've even discovered what they love. I recently spoke with a teacher who shared the most heartbreaking story about a 4-year-old refusing to wear a princess dress in the costume corner because she said that she it didn't fit right, and you could see this look on her face. And she said, like, how do these ideas take root in them so early? Media research reveals children as young as 5 become aware of dieting and express weight loss behaviors. They explain that this awareness typically comes from observing adult behaviors rather than explicit messages. So children learn by watching our reactions to weight gain, our food conversations, and how we treat people in larger bodies. So, how early do girls actually start to feel bad about their bodies? Solid evidence shows body dissatisfaction becoming established by age 8 for many, with the roots forming between 3 to 4 years old. This timing is both troubling and empowering for parents. If these attitudes form before social media and teen magazines enter the picture, we must ask what's influencing them. The answer is likely closer to home than we'd like to admit. If our daughters aren't getting these ideas from Instagram at age 3 or 4, they're learning from watching us, from our body talk, our mirror reactions, our food anxieties. This doesn't mean we should blame ourselves. Most of us were raised in the same culture, but it means we have the power to change the narrative. As the primary influence during these formative years, we have a remarkable opportunity to help them develop a healthier relationship with their bodies than perhaps we had with our own. I had a really big wake up call probably a couple of years ago. I was getting dressed, and doing my usual morning routine of looking in the mirror and like nitpicking what I see. And without thinking, I kind of, I pinched my stomach and I was like grumbling under my voice about it. And then I heard a little voice behind me, and there was my 3-year-old at the time, standing there watching me. And she came up to the mirror and she was just looking at her tummy. And then she just looked at me. And it was like seeing myself through a time machine. And honestly, it broke my heart. Have you ever caught your daughter mimicking how you look in the mirror or repeating phases you've said about your body? That moment when you realize they're internalizing your words as the script for how women should view their bodies, and it can be deeply confronting. I feel like all that research just confirmed exactly what I saw in the mirror. A study from the University of Newcastle found that daughters with mothers who express dissatisfaction with their own bodies are significantly more likely to develop similar issues themselves. So when mothers are frequently dieting or making negative comments about their weight, their daughters are about 3 times more likely to develop unhealthy body attitudes by the age of 8. As mothers, we are the first and most powerful models of womanhood for our daughters. Not celebrities, not social media, influencers, not even their friends. It's us. We teach them what it means to live in a female body long before any other influence gets a chance. The way we talk about the way we talk, the way we treat our body creates their earliest understanding of what's normal and expected. What we say about ourselves matters tremendously. Those comments like, I look fat in this, or I need to lose this weight before summer, aren't passing remarks to them. They're lessons. When we criticize our bodies, we're inadvertently teaching our daughters that women's bodies are meant to be criticized, that constant evaluation is normal, and that their physical appearance determines their worth. Think about the last time you stepped on a scale and frowned, or tried on some clothes and complained about how tight they fit, or declined to join in at the swimming pool because you felt self-conscious. Your daughter was watching, absorbing, learning. This is how women behave, she concludes. This is what I should do too. Our non-verbal cues speak volumes. The way we examine ourselves critically in mirrors, how we flinch when we see photos of ourselves, or the tension in our bodies when someone comments on our appearance. Our daughters pick up on all of it. Children are remarkably perceptive to these subtle signals, often more so than to our direct statements. I read another article from a doctor, and she explained that these patterns of body dissatisfaction can be passed down through generations, like family heirlooms, with daughters unconsciously inheriting their mother's insecurities and coping behaviors. It's a cycle that continues unless we consciously decide to break it. I read that a mother's own dieting behavior and body image concerns were more strongly linked to her daughter's body dissatisfaction than any media influence. This was true even for very young girls who had limited media exposure. Your relationship with your own body teaches your daughter how she should feel about hers more effectively than any magazine cover or Instagram post ever could. When I first learned about this research, I felt so guilty. I thought about all the times I'd criticized my body in front of my girls. But then I realized something important. Recognizing this influence can be empowering. Because if we have this much influence, it means we can also have the power to change the narrative. We can model something different and better for our daughters. We don't need to have perfect body image ourselves. Most women raised in our culture don't. But we can be mindful of the messages we're sending, both verbal and nonverbal. The reality is that social media, peers, and wider culture will eventually have their say. But by the time those influences arrive in full force, you have already established the foundation of how your daughter understands and relates to her body. You're her first and most important model of womanhood. You're the blueprint she uses to understand what it means to live in a female body. Now let's talk about those subtle messages we send at home that might be programming our daughter's body image without us even realizing it. I call these the hidden household triggers, the everyday moments that seem innocent but can deeply shape how our girls see themselves. These triggers are like emotional landmines scattered throughout our homes, invisible until stepped on, yet powerful enough to disrupt a child's developing self-esteem. Diet talk is possibly the biggest culprit here. I caught myself doing it yesterday. I reached for a biscuit after dinner and I kind of said like, oh, I shouldn't really have this. And my 3-year-old was sitting right there, absorbing the idea that eating certain food makes you bad. When we use language like, I'm being good today, or this cake is naughty, we're attaching moral value to eating and teaching our daughters to do the same. I actually saw something really sad at a birthday party last year, and a 5-year-old went to have cake and she's like, oh, I can't have that cake because it's bad for me. And I was just stunned. I'd never thought a 5-year-old would say that about a cake at a party. And, she's obviously somehow pieced together this message from countless tiny comments, she's observed from other people about cake. How sad, a 5-year-old. A university study found that mothers who frequently diet have daughters more likely to engage in unhealthy weight control behaviors, starting as young as 5 years old. Even more concerning was that there was reports that 80% of 10-year-old girls have been on a diet. They're learning these behaviors somewhere, and often it's right at home. So moving to another significant trigger is the appearance compliment trap. So when your daughter comes downstairs in a new outfit and you automatically say, oh, you look so pretty, and it seems positive, that seems like the nice thing to do. However, constantly praising our daughters for being pretty reinforces the message that their appearance is their most valuable quality. I started noticing how often I complimented my daughters on their looks compared to their kindness or creativity or determination. Without meaning to, I was training them to value beauty above all the other qualities. Even comments like, oh, you look slim in that dress sends the message that certain body types are more desirable. Research shows that girls who receive frequent appearance-based compliments tend to have higher levels of appearance-focused self-worth, making them more vulnerable to body dissatisfaction later as they tie their self-worth to appearance rather than character. The third major trigger involves family conversations about other people's bodies. I remember hearing a conversation around the dinner table at Christmas, and someone commented on how a celebrity had really let herself go after having a baby. My daughter didn't say anything, but I could see her, listening to that conversation, and she would have been filing that away. Weight gain is something shameful. When we comment on celebrities' weight fluctuations or mention how someone looks amazing after losing weight, our daughters learn that their bodies are up for public discussion and criticism. I read as well that that found that family that weight talk, even if not directed at the child, is linked to higher rates of unhealthy weight control behaviors in girls. Other subtle triggers include, how we talk about exercise. Is it punishment for eating or joyful movement? That was my family. I grew up in a house of, exercise was punishment. You eat that cake, now you're going to have to exercise. It was never about moving your body and making you feel strong. Our relationship with mirrors. Do we grimace at our reflection? And language about our clothes, this flattering, like, oh, that's flattering on you, or, oh yeah, that's good. That's hiding your belly, and, being aware of certain body parts. And being aware of these triggers is the first step to creating a more body positive environment at home. It's about becoming more conscious of the subtle messages we're sending. Our homes can either reinforce harmful cultural messages about bodies or become a safe haven for them. The good news is that once we identify these patterns, we can begin to change them. Even small changes in how we talk about our bodies, food, and appearance can have a profound impact on how our daughters view themselves. So what if we completely change the conversation about bodies in our home? What if instead of talking about how our bodies look, we celebrated what they can do? This shift might sound simple, but it's truly transformative for young girls. This approach is called body functionality, emphasizing what our bodies allow us to experience and accomplish rather than how they appear. While our culture constantly draws attention to appearance, body functionality celebrates our bodies as instruments rather than ornaments. Think about it. Your body allows you to hug your children, to dance around the kitchen with wild abandon as music fills the room, to feel the warmth of sunshine caressing your skin. Your daughter's body lets her climb trees with determination in her eyes, make art with colourful fingerprints, and express her feelings through movement. With my 3-year-old, we've started using this language daily. When she's playing at the park, I might say, look at those strong legs that helped you climb so high, or your clever hands built such an amazing tower. We talk about how her body helps her do the things she loves, not how it looks while she's doing them. This subtle shift in language makes a profound difference in how she understands her value. I remember the day my daughter fell at the playground and she grazed her knee. And instead of just comforting her, I took the opportunity to talk about how amazing our bodies are at healing themselves. Your body is already working to fix that graze, I told her. The same body that lets you run so fast is clever enough to heal when you fall. And her eyes just widened with this wonder at this new way of thinking about herself. And science backs this shift in focus. Studies show that girls who appreciate their bodies for what they can do develop stronger self-esteem and more positive body image. A study from the Body Image Research Group found that interventions focusing on body functionality reduced appearance concerns in girls as young as 6 years old. These girls were less likely to compare themselves to others and showed greater body satisfaction overall. This shift in focus helps girls develop a more complex understanding of their worth, one that isn't tied to changing standards of beauty. When a girl understands that her value comes from kindness, creativity, strength, determination, and countless other qualities, she builds resilience against narrow beauty standards. Body functionality is like a musical instrument perfectly tuned. When we focus on what our bodies do rather than how they look, we create this harmonious relationship within ourselves that resonates through every aspect of life. It's also about introducing about our bodies feeling neutral. The about our bodies feeling neutral. The idea that you don't have to love every part of your body every day, but you can respect it for allowing you to experience the world. On days when I don't feel particularly fond of how I look, I can still appreciate that my arms allow me to hold my children and my legs carry me through my busy day. When we talk about our bodies in terms of strength and ability and sensation, we are giving our daughters a richer vocabulary for themselves. Beyond pretty or thin, we're teaching them that their bodies are for doing and feeling, not just being looked at. This creates a foundation for healthier relationships with food and exercise too. These become tools to nourish their wonderful bodies, not punishments for perceived flaws. Last month, my 5-year-old told me she loves swimming because I feel so strong in the water. My legs are so strong. And that moment confirmed this approach was making a difference. She was experiencing her body from the inside out. The beautiful thing about the functionality approach is that it works for all bodies. Every single body can do amazing things, regardless of size or shape or ability level. When we celebrate what bodies can do, we create a more inclusive understanding of value. So tonight, when tucking your daughter in, point out how amazing her body helped her play today, how her arms hugged friends, how her brain learned new things. You're teaching her that her body is her wonderful home in this world, worthy of respect for all it's let her do. Have you ever cringed when a relative commented on your daughter's appearance or weight? That moment when a family member might say, "Oh, she's getting a bit chubby, isn't she?" Or a well meaning family member tells your 5-year-old, "Oh, you're looking so pretty. Oh, you look so slim." I remember feeling my stomach drop. I remember feeling my stomach drop, when a family member told my daughter, like, "Oh, like, you don't want to have another biscuit, you've got to be careful," or a family member said to me, like, "Oh, loose, like, 2 donuts. Oh, she has to be careful, And these outside influences can completely undermine even the most body positive home environment. You might spend all week carefully cultivating healthy attitudes about bodies, only to have a thoughtless comment undo your hard work in seconds. So, what can we do when these well meaning words undermine our progress? So, the research suggests that direct private conversations with these adults are the most effective. It can feel uncomfortable, I know. No one wants to confront grandma about her comments on your daughter's appearance. But these conversations don't need to be confrontational. They can be informative and kind. I found it helpful to approach these conversations from a place of shared concern. Like with my own mum, I said something like, "I know you love the girls and I want you to feel good about themselves. And I'm trying to help them value themselves for more than their appearance. Could we start focusing our compliments on their creativity and kindness more than how they look?" And this framing acknowledges the good intentions behind the comments while clearly explaining your family values. When family members understand the why behind your requests, they're often more willing to adjust their language. You might explain that research shows appearance focused compliments can harm girls' self esteem, making them feel like their value lies primarily in how they look. And most people genuinely want what's best for your children. They just might not understand the impact of their words. And it can be helpful to offer alternative ways for relatives to connect with your daughter. Instead of appearance based comments, suggest phrases like, I love how creative you are, or your smile lights up the room when you're happy. I've My father-in-law used to comment frequently on my daughter's appearances. After a conversation, he switched to asking about the interest about what books you read these days, or did you have any goals in football this week? The girls actually connect with him more deeply now because these questions show genuine interest to her, not just how they look. So fathers and brothers play a crucial role in creating a body positive environment too. Studies show that involving male family members significantly strengthens the message for girls. When the men in a girl's life demonstrate respect for all bodies and avoid commenting on women's appearances, it creates a consistent environment where bodies aren't constantly evaluated. Media literacy is another powerful tool for managing outside influences. Even for young children, you can start simple conversations about advertisements and children's books. Questions like, do you think all princesses really look like that? Help children develop critical thinking skills. We were reading a fairy tale recently where my 5-year-old pointing out that all the princesses look the same. They all have yellow hair and they all have a small tummy, but real people look different. And I said, they do. Everybody is different. Everybody is different. And, these conversations don't need to be heavy. They can just be curious and playful while still helping children question limited representations of bodies. As they get older, you can introduce more complex media literacy concepts. Teaching your daughter to ask who created this image and why helps her become an active consumer of media rather than a passive recipient. Remember that you're teaching your daughter to be the manager of her own self-concept, to choose what messages she lets in and what she keeps out. By showing her how you protect her from harmful comments, you're modeling skills she'll eventually use herself. Yesterday, I overheard my daughter telling a friend, in our family, we don't use the word fat. It's a bad word. And, that simple statement showed me that despite the outside influence, and that simple statement showed me that, despite the outside influences, the messages we're reinforcing at home are starting to take root. All right. So can we be honest for a moment? So many of us, can we be honest for a moment? Many of us are trying to raise body positive daughters while still struggling with our own body image issues. It feels a bit like teaching someone to swim when we're barely staying afloat ourselves. That little voice in our head still critiques our reflection, still compares our bodies to others, still makes us hesitate before stepping into bathers. How can we possibly teach our daughters to love their bodies when we haven't quite figured it out ourselves? And I want you to know something important. You don't need to have the perfect body image to help your daughter develop a healthy relationship with her body. You need to be willing to try, aware, and to be honest with yourself, if not always with her. Research reveals that transformed my perspective. Modeling positive body images for our daughters creates a mutual healing process. When we consciously choose different language about bodies for their sake, those new thought patterns gradually reshape our own internal landscape. I noticed this myself after a few months of carefully monitoring my language around my girls. I'd stopped saying negative things about my body out loud, and gradually the volume of those thoughts in my head began to decrease too. The act of performing body acceptance eventually helps create actual body acceptance. This doesn't mean pretending to love your body if you don't. Your body, you can feel neutral about your body and focusing on what your body does rather than how it looks. And that can be a more realistic goal for some. Some days will be harder than others, and body image is a journey, not a destination. I find it helpful to think, my body might not look the way society tells me it should, but it carried my children. It allows me to hug them. It helps me experience this beautiful world. And that's recognizing the value of my body beyond appearance. Small changes make such a big difference. Simply by stopping negative body talk, it requires that awareness that shifts your own internal dialogue over time. When you catch yourself about to say something critical, that pause creates space for new patterns to form. Last month, I almost said I look fat in this while trying on, an outfit for a party. And my daughter's watching, so I stopped myself. Instead, I said, this isn't the most comfortable dress for me. I think I want to feel good at the party and I'll try something else. And that small change from an appearance focused to comfort focused felt way more authentic and modeled healthier priorities. Many mothers find that focusing on how they want their daughters to feel motivates them to treat their own bodies with more compassion. When I think about how heartbroken I would be if my daughter spoke to herself the way I sometimes speak to myself, it pushes me to practice more self-kindness. Cultural differences in body image concerns matter. Different communities have different beauty standards and relationship with food and bodies. I speak from my perspective, but taking the investment out of appearance and putting it into other aspects of self benefits it benefits everyone across cultural contexts. Working through your own issues with a therapist can be valuable, especially with a history of disordered eating or severe body image distress. Okay, let's get practical. What does body positive parenting actually look like in those everyday moments with your young daughter? It's one thing to understand the concepts, but quite another to put them into practice when you're in the middle of a busy morning or responding to a comment your child makes about her tummy at bedtime. I found that starting with mindful language choices makes the biggest difference. So instead of greeting your daughter with, "You look beautiful today," when she comes to breakfast, try, "You look so happy this morning," or, "I loved how kind you were to your brother just now." That subtle shift moves the focus from appearance to emotions and actions. It balances appearance-based compliments with many more that celebrate who she is beyond her looks. Yesterday morning, my 5-year-old came out in the mismatched outfit she'd chosen herself. And my first instinct was to say "Oh, look, you look so cute." But instead I was like, no, I was like, "Oh, I like the choices you've made with your clothes today." And I said, "Do you feel good?" And her proud smile showed me she valued that recognition of her decision making far more than a comment about cuteness. Creating regular opportunities for joyful movement is another practical strategy. In our house, we are always having spontaneous dance parties in the living room. Or, just going for walks where we challenge ourselves to climb hills or balance on logs and just play active games at the park. And the focus is always on fun, challenge, and feeling good, never on burning calories or changing how our bodies look. Last weekend or after a long walk, my daughter was like, my legs feel so strong today. I walked so far. And that's exactly the kind of body awareness I hope to nurture, connected to sensation and ability rather than appearance. So in choosing books and media, look for diverse body representations. We recently found a really good book about swimming, and it showed children, adults of all different sizes and abilities and ethnicities all enjoying the water. And I kind of commented and I was like, look at all the different bodies enjoying the swimming. Isn't it beautiful? Like, all these bodies come in amazing shapes and sizes. And this compliment switch is a technique I try and practice daily. Whenever I find myself about to compliment my daughter's appearance, I quickly switch to complimenting a character trait, skill, or an action instead. So, you look pretty in that dress becomes, oh, you've been waiting so patiently for your turn, or I notice how well you've been concentrating on building that tower. Role playing responses to body negative comments has been surprisingly effective. So children encounter body negative talk even in primary school. So giving your daughter simple phrases helps her navigate these situations. We practice saying things like, bodies come in different sizes and that's okay. Or I like my body because it helps me do things I enjoy. My daughter recently told me she used one of these phrases when a friend at school said something about another child being fat. Um, So creating regular check-ins as well provides opportunities to address body image concerns before they become entrenched. Simple questions like, how are you feeling about yourself these days? Or, it can open important conversations. They don't need to be formal, sit down conversations. It's just the best discussions that happen, in the car or cooking together or at bedtime. Studies show that daughters of mothers who diet are 10 times more likely to worry about their weight by age 10. Maternal commentary about weight, even if focused only on the mother's own body, directly links to body dissatisfaction in daughters. These strategies aren't theoretical. They're protective factors that research shows can significantly reduce the risk of body dissatisfaction as your daughter grows. A longitudinal study following girls from age 5 to 15 found that those whose parents emphasized body functionality over appearance showed greater body satisfaction during those adolescent years. I saw this impact with my daughter's friend refused to wear her swimming costume because she thought her tummy looked too big. Our bodies help us swim and play and hug and people and we love, and that's what matters. You're teaching your daughter about worth, about what deserves her energy and attention in life. And that might be one of the most valuable gifts you can give her. The most powerful gift we can give our daughters isn't a perfect body or even perfect body image. It's the understanding that their bodies are just one small part of who they are, not the most important part, and certainly not the most interesting. As we create homes where bodies are respected but not overvalued, we give our daughters freedom to focus on discovering passions and developing talents. Like building a strong foundation for a house, each conversation about body respect strengthens your daughter's resilience. The strategies we've discussed, modeling healthy attitudes, challenging media messages, and celebrating functionality, work together to help your daughter navigate our image-obsessed world with confidence and compassion.